Just wanted to welcome everybody. Thanks for everybody for coming. Everybody shows the love that Mom had for everybody and everybody had for her. And appreciate everybody coming from long distances, especially Roger. He beat us all for long distance. We'll just follow the program today that we have for the funeral service. I'm Alan Prestwich, Kathy's son, and I'll be conducting today. Lorraine will be giving the first talk, and then we'll have a musical number by Art Sharp, who's be playing off to the side over here, but it is live. It's just hard to play if you're looking at a bunch of people who are crying. So, and then we'll have three of the grandchildren say some memories, share some memories, and I'll have closing remarks, and we'll go to that point.
Oh goodness, there are a lot of people here. Mom was a joyous soul who touched many lives over the years. From humble beginnings in southern England to the beautiful home she and Dad designed together, she lived a full and wonderful life. Everything she did with grace and elegance, with a minimum of fuss and bother. As my daughter Laura wrote in tribute, she was elegance and warmth, refinement and playfulness, just as at home sipping tea as she was flicking roly-poly bugs across the patio with the grandkids. Born in England, she passed down her love of cream buns and that dry, witty humor that we'll never forget. I know each and every one of you here today have special memories of her, and I hope that you cherish those memories and remember her with joy and love, for that is how she would want to be remembered. For me, this tribute is being given as her daughter, who is privileged to be raised by an amazing woman who taught me by example how to be a strong woman and to live my life true to myself. She always accepted me, as she did everyone in the family, for who I am. She loved and guided me through my teen years, and we were closest of friends all through my adult life. She was always there through good times and bad. We laughed together, and we on occasion cried together. We had lots of long talks solving the problems of the world, and she was so very many things to me, but in the end, everything she meant to me is captured by saying she was my mom. Mom left us the gift of some written memories of her life, especially her years growing up in England. She wanted her children and great-grandchildren to know a little bit about their British grandmother. Mom was born in 1937, and World War II started in 1939 when she was only 2 and ended when she was 8. Their village was only 40 miles from London, and she remembers the German bombers flying overhead. They used the chimneys of the brickworks to guide them to London. And she said, we could hear the planes long before we saw them. The sirens would go off, and we would run to the shelter at the bottom of the garden. Mom always made sure it was well stocked with water and food, which is not surprising, given my grandmother. If we didn't have time to reach the shelter, we would hide in the cupboard under the stairs. Clothing was in short supply, and they made dresses from parachutes when they could find them discarded in the woods or fields. It wasn't an easy time to be a child in England, but her parents took care of her, her sister Auntie Flory, and her 2 brothers, Brian and Terry. Mom stayed very close to her family, and especially her parents, including her father, who lived to be 99 and a half. Her grandpa Sibley worked for the Duke of Bedford, and Mom shared this memory. We would put Terry in the pram and walk to their home on Sundays for tea. About 3 miles, I should think. We would walk 3 miles through the woods of rhododendrons in bloom and the beautiful trees and flowers, picking up chestnuts and conkers off the trees, then high tea at Granny's. She always had an elegant table for tea, beautiful china, and snow-white tablecloths. Mom left school at 16, as was common back then, and she trained to take dictation and went to work at the brickworks, but soon went from there to work at the light bulb factory, where she could make much more money doing her piecework. One night in 1956, Mom met a handsome young American from Idaho named Ken. Dad and his friends had given Auntie Flory a ride home, and when they went inside, Mom was there listening to the song The Green Door. The next time he saw her, he asked her to dance. They danced together, started dating, and fell in love, and were married on July 7th, 1957. Dad was the love of her life. And they recently celebrated their 68th wedding anniversary. Dad found their first apartment, which had some interesting quirks, including a bathtub in the kitchen that doubled as the dining room table. They had to put a coin in a metered box to keep the electricity going, and when the meter ran out, they had to stumble down the dark stairs to put more money to get their electricity back on. Before long, Mom found a better place, and they made their first of many moves. Dad says that's the way it always was. He'd find an okay place to live, and then Mom would find a better one, and they would move. In 2005, they designed together and built their dream home. When I saw the plans, I said, well, I thought you were downsizing, and she just smiled. She came from a long line of gardeners and created the New Mexico version of English-style flower gardens, and she loved flowers. And in later years, she and I we would exchange flowers for our special occasions. I learned to garden from Mom, and we spent many hours talking about gardening and enjoying our gardens together. In recent years, she started asking me for gardening advice, and much of what I told her was the same thing that she had taught me when I was much younger. Mom turned every house into a beautiful home where we knew we were safe and cherished and loved. One of my favorite authors, Deborah Harkness, says that all that children need is love, a grown-up to take responsibility for them, and a soft place to land. This is the gift that Mom and Dad gave to my brothers and I. In November of 1958, Mom and Dad and I moved to America. And I would like to share a poem by another British bride that Mom included in the beginning of her written memories. She copied this into her journal in 1985. How long ago it was that I, so happy, young, and gay, flew across the ocean to the good old USA. In memory I see Sunday strolls to nearby parks, showers that would bring the fragrance of lilacs and daffodils so bright. The coal man, milkman, and muffin man. Oh, what a friendly sight. A kettle singing by the fire, my mother making tea. Wits and walks in pretty clothes, my friends would call to see. If Saturday, we would all go to Blackpool for the day, and off we'd go by Charbunk, stopping on the way to drink maybe a shandy or a lemonade so cool. Ham sandwiches and pork pies, that would be the rule. To walk again through shady woods and savor England's green. The hawthorn in the hedges, those things I have seen. So now I'm busy making plans, and I have set the date to go to England in the spring. Oh, I can hardly wait. We lived in Idaho while Dad finished college at the University of Idaho, where Mom got her PhD, putting hubby through. After Dad graduated in 1962, he got a job at Sandia National Labs in Albuquerque, and she spent the rest of her life here. Over the years, she discovered a broad range of friendships. Shortly after moving to Albuquerque, she joined the British Brides Club and made lifelong friends with other women in the club. As a young girl, it was a privilege to me to grow up around these amazing, funny, stylish British women. And I always had to laugh when people would tell me, well, the British had no sense of humor. And obviously, they didn't know the British people that I knew. The club always had lots of activities, including having a float in the Thanksgiving parade that the city put on. One year, their theme was the Wizard of Oz, and Mom was the Tin Man, all done up in silver, including silver paint on her face and hands. Even though Mom missed England, she fully embraced her American life and became an American citizen in the 1960s. Mom and her good friend Pat took their citizenship class together from a lady named Mrs. Milne. Pat told me that she and Mom were favorite students because they knew all the answers. And I remember the day that Mom proudly became a U.S. citizen, sworn in by federal judge H. Roe Payne. And in later years, got to know Judge Payne, and every time I saw him, I remember, I made your mom a citizen. And Mom took her role as a citizen very seriously, and she always voted and followed current affairs. Mom was no fuss, no muss, no whinging allowed, but she was always ready to listen and offer support. She was fiercely loyal and protective of her family, but she didn't coddle us. Mom had her standards and very strong ideas on how things should be done and the proper way to behave. Dinner was promptly at 6. We all sat at the kitchen table. We had many lively discussions around that table over the years on topics both serious and silly. Good manners were a must. Please and thank you and respect were ingrained. Beds were to be made, rooms to be cleaned up. My best friend said that one of my best friends said that Mom had the best behaved children and dogs in the neighborhood. And I said, well, all she had to do was give us that look. And we straightened right up. But she was also a fun and loving mom, and our home was filled with laughter. As kids, we spent many a summer day at the pool with her. She was always the devoted wife and mother. Dad was the center of her life, and they have a love that will last forever. Watching them as I grew up, I saw how wonderful a true partnership with your best friend can be, which provided a wonderful example to me as I fell in love and got married. We took lots of family vacations, which were always an adventure. We traveled throughout the West, making it as far as California one summer. When I was 16, we took a memorable trip with the Syme family through the South to New Orleans. We had lots of adventures and lots of fun things happened on the way. Mom and Pat both recently told me the story of going to a jazz club in New Orleans. They were enjoying the very loud music and turned around to look at Dad and Dave, who were sound asleep. Mom and Dad took many trips together, including to Hawaii, to Vienna to see us when we lived there, to Germany to see Laura, and to Canada, including a very special trip to Seattle and Victoria for their 60th wedding anniversary. As our family grew to include spouses, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, Mom embraced each new addition with open arms. She had 11 grandchildren and 14 great-grandchildren. All 11 grandchildren are with us today, as are many of her great-grandchildren and various spouses also. From Mom and Dad's wedding in 1957, we have become a big, noisy, happy family. We all loved Mom dearly, and she loved each and every one of us, and she was truly the heartbeat of our family. Because Mom grew up during World War II and the long period of rationing in England, she had some very definite ideas about food. 3 meals a day and a snack after school, moon pies or her own homemade Jubilee Jumbles, chocolate chip cookies. One of the family jokes is that when we couldn't find something to snack on, we would sneak the chocolate chips from the Tupperware container that she kept them in. When a lot of us were together the other night, I asked how many used to sneak chocolate chip cookies, and everyone, kids and grandkids included, raised their hands. Even though Mom lived in the U.S. all of her life, in many ways she remained quintessentially English. She loved her tea, and it had to be made just so. There were times in restaurants when she sent the tea back to be made properly because the water was not hot enough. She loved PG Tips tea, and in recent years, Mark, my husband, would buy her a large box of tea bags for Christmas, which made her quite happy. This past Christmas, he found a bag of 1,100 tea bags, which was about this big, which she thought was just wonderful. Growing up, we had a proper Sunday dinner. It was often roast beef, mashed potatoes, Yorkshire pudding, and a veg. Mom made trifle, a traditional English dessert for holidays. As our family grew, she bought a big bowl so that she could make enough for everyone. Some years she had to make 2 to serve our ever-growing family. For 2 years, she subscribed to a magazine called This England that gave her a connection to home. In the days before cell phones and cheap international calls, it was a special treat for her to be able to talk to her mom and dad on the phone. Our trips to England were always great fun. We would tease her that as soon as she stepped foot on English soil, her accent got stronger, and she practically ran to where she knew her family was waiting for her. We never said goodbye to our English family. We always said, "See you soon." She loved the royal family, especially Queen Elizabeth and the Queen Mother. When I was growing up, we had a tea tray with a picture of the royal family on it, and it had pride of place. Mom loved to read and always had a novel on the go. Although she left school at 16, she was very well read and followed current events. When she lamented that she didn't have a formal education, I told her that she was self-educated in the very best way. Both Mom and Dad encouraged all of us, kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids, to pursue our educations. Mom was a talented knitter and seamstress. My Aunt Sharon taught her to sew when I was 12, and we spent lots of happy hours picking out patterns and fabric and making clothing together. And Mom had many talents. Dad and I were talking about all the different things that she loved to do, and including playing the piano and just so many things, that she had such a rich and full life. Mom loved music, and she loved to play it very loudly when she was home alone. My daughter Amanda remembers going into the house through the garage door and startling Mom, who didn't hear her coming in because the music was so loud. And I'm sure she laughed and was happy to see Amanda. Dad remembers that when they moved to the U.S., they didn't have it much, but they did bring Mom's big stack of 78s. And for those who don't know what those are were small records with one song on each side. Over the years, she collected lots of albums and CDs. She loved all kinds of music, country and classical, Tom Jones and Engelbert Humperdinck, Elton John and Rod Stewart, and had a special fondness for the tenors, including Pavarotti. Mom always loved to dance and was always up for a good party, of which there were many over the years. When the British girls had a party, they always had a sing-song, as they called it, where they sang all the old favorites, did a crazy dance called Knees Up Mother Brown, and danced the Hokey Pokey. Mom had always had interests outside of the home. She was a good bowler and was part of a bowling league for a few years. I remember her being in a summer league at UCAN Bowl with lots of kids running around. I think we were supposed to stay in the nursery, but we kept escaping to see what our moms were doing. And looking for the perfect sport, she even tried tennis once. After one try, she decided that was not for her. Then she learned to play golf, and she was hooked. Mom originally took up golf so that she wouldn't be a golf widow because Dad had become an avid golfer. She came to love the game and was very good at it. She had a beautiful swing. She joined a ladies' golf group and played with Dad and whoever else was available on the weekends. Mom and Dad often took trips that included golfing. It was a perfect combination, golf and the travel, two things that she loved. She enjoyed playing with her brothers, either in the U.S. or England, and playing with them always included lots of teasing and joking around. Mom and Dad eventually bought a second home in Alto, New Mexico, and became members of the golf club there. And they also joined a senior golf association and played in tournaments in Miami, Florida, and California. For as long as I can remember, Mom and Dad were huge fans of Lobo basketball. They began attending games at Johnson Gym, and when the pit was built, they and a group of their friends bought season tickets so they could all sit together. And they had those season tickets for over 50 years. During the time that the pit was being built, our Sunday afternoon excursions were to go and see how the construction was coming along. Having a brand new, huge arena was a very big deal. And they supported the basketball program through its good years and its bad years. Mom lived a full and happy life. She didn't complain and didn't nag. If you asked her how she was, she'd say, "I'm fine." Even in later years when we knew that she wasn't and she had things that need to be addressed. We told her on numerous occasions that "I'm fine" isn't the appropriate answer when you're in the ER and the doctor asks how you are. Or when your hospice nurse comes and asks you Max is smiling better. Every time he came in the house, he'd say, "How are you, Kathy?" And she'd say, "I'm fine." She kept up her good spirits until the very end. We were lucky to have her with us for so long, and yet it wasn't long enough. In closing, I would like to ask each of you to remember her, whether you knew her as Kathy, wife, mom, grandma, great-grandma, friend, or neighbor, with joy, love, and laughter. She wouldn't want us to be gloomy, but she would understand the tears, and she would say she loves us and wants each of us to be happy. So, Mom, as we always said, love you and see you soon.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already gone. 'Twas grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead us home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
Kind of short. Hello, I'm Carl's oldest daughter, Samantha, and I have the privilege of sharing a little bit about my grandma for my brother, Joseph, Sabrina, and me. I'm the oldest of us 11, if you didn't figure that out. And over the past couple of weeks, just like my aunt and uncle have shared before, we've been sharing memories with all of us of my grandma. What I found most interesting was that while we all had a lot of memories that were the same and in common, and you'll hear them kind of over and over, her influence looked just a little bit different to each of us. For my brother, it was her truthful, straight talk. She said it how it was, and you always knew where she stood on things. Her feistiness and strength was what my sister remembered most. That my grandma could do anything she set her mind to. Now, if you know either of my siblings, you'll know that they're very much like her in those ways. For me, she modeled much of what I would strive to be. I remember as a little girl watching her, and she was always beautiful and put together. I remember eating holiday meals on china and crystal and thinking it was the coolest thing ever. Now, when we did a poll over my cousins, I might have been the only one other than Laura that thought that was cool. So, how impeccable she kept her house, as we were just talking about. Her zest for travel, her attention to detail. Like I said, not everyone found the awe in that, but I so did. As she showed me that I could be any and all of those things. I was lucky enough to share that with her a couple of years ago. I told her that any class, any properness, any elegance or grace that I have, I learned from her. She, of course, humbly shrugged it off, but she sure did smile. I don't think we always know who's watching us and what impact we have on people, but she sure did on me. It seems unfathomable that one day I might have grandkids that don't get to meet my grandma. But some of her will live on in each of us. It'll be our job to share her with them. I'll forever be grateful for the unconditional love my grandma gave us. Thank you, guys.
All right, I don't know if I'm going to get through this. My name's Sean. I'm Lorraine's youngest. She's Kathy's oldest daughter. Writing this speech was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. It was so hard because I couldn't pick a single story that showed how much Grandma meant to all of us. Grandma and Grandpa were always, and still are, a major part of our family's life. Loving us unconditionally, regardless of where we were or what we were doing. If we invited them, they would be there. Even living in a different country wouldn't stop them from being there for us. One of my earliest memories of Grandma was her telling me about going to school in Ridgemont, just outside of London, and how she and her friends played in the schoolyards on an unexploded bomb that dropped from a German bombing raid of London. When I was 5, I thought that was such a fun story. But now looking back as an adult, it showed me that even at a young age, Grandma was able to find joy no matter where she was or what she was doing. And I love that story even more. She truly lived for the moment, taking in all the sights and sounds and smells of the world around her, even if her nose ended up covered in pollen. Moving to Vienna was not easy for me at 7. I was homesick and missing all that I felt I left behind. Grandma and Grandpa visited soon after we moved, bringing all the love and joy and comfort that I was missing from home. Our time together was spent sightseeing, hiking through the forest, and tracking down fresh cream buns wherever we could. The most meaningful trip together was us visiting England and seeing Grandma with her family. I always enjoyed the stories about her growing up, but it was something special seeing her with her mom and dad and her brothers and sister. I always remember watching them, and I knew how much they loved each other and how much they loved us because we were her kids and her grandkids. We were all family. During a trip to London, I found out where those giant peppermint sticks came from. I remember how excited I was when I saw them in a small shop just outside of Westminster Abbey. Grandpa bought a handful of them, one for each of us, and the rest for the grandkids back in the States. When we moved back to New Mexico, we got to live as close as we could, short of moving in with Grandma and Grandpa. The 5 of us all but lived in a house in Cedar Ridge. We were always coming and going, spending time there after school, sneaking the chocolate chips, and adamantly denying that we did when she opened the container and there were only a few left. Enjoying her home-cooked meals whenever we wanted, be it green chili stew or her English roast dinner, completed with Yorkshire pudding and mashed potatoes. For all of us in the fall, us grandkids, helping them pick peaches from the trees in their backyard, and enjoying the freshly made peach cobbler and vanilla ice cream. And, of course, the family favorite, the trifle for any celebration. I am Team Sprinkles. Grandma and Grandpa always loved supporting us, doing what we always loved supporting us when we did what we loved. They were always there at the sidelines of the soccer field, or in the audience to the latest drama production, or that month's choir concert. We would look out and see Grandma and Grandpa with smiles plastered across their face, proudly supporting us. And how she celebrated and supported our budding relationships and comforting the inevitable heartaches. Her effortless inclusion and acceptance of all of our significant others, even if they were temporary. Doting over all the grandkids, or great-grandkids, that soon followed. The love and joy in her eyes when she saw all of us was one of the best sights in this world. Although we can't see your smile or feel your loving embrace, we know that you won't be too far away, and that you will always be there with each of us, celebrating our successes and offering comfort in hard times. We all love that we got to call you Grandma. And like you taught us, we'll see you soon.
Hi, I'm Brenna. I think the youngest granddaughter, the youngest grandchild of Grandma. And I just wanted to make a little aside and say that I think most of you know that I did a drawing of the portrait that we have on display here, and I just have to say that I don't think I can take credit for it because Grandma's spirit was right there with me when I was making it, and there was no way that me by myself could have gotten that done in a night. When Andrew, my husband, and I met, I had a little indoor garden, and it had little shelves and plant lights, and I liked to grow herbs and flowers. And Andrew soon learned that one of my favorites was my orchid. And this last time that we came to visit Grandma, Andrew noticed the orchids in the house, and I said, "Oh yeah, that's why they're my favorite, because they remind me of Grandma." And Andrew said, "Oh, I didn't know that." And I was like, in my head, I was like, well, I wasn't trying to keep it a secret or anything, I guess. I guess I just started thinking of orchids as just like a flower that I liked. And then when I was reflecting on that, I realized that it was so much more than that. Because when I saw an orchid, I had all of this warmth and memory and just this essence of Grandma that came with it, of this woman who was just as elegant and imposing as the flower itself, and how she had so much pride and dignity in everything that she did, and she had just this charm and wit that made everyone just fall in love with her, I think. And so when I see orchids and teacups and wooden statues of black bears playing golf, I just can't help but feel that warmth and the sunshine that came from Grandma and the memories that she has with all of us. Some of my favorite memories were going to the cabin in Alto, and there was a big whirlpool, or a big hot tub, and my siblings I'm the youngest of 5, and so my older siblings would all run around the edge of the hot tub as fast as they could and make a little whirlpool in the center, and I would just sit in the center and spin around. And I thought that was amazing. And then some of my other favorite memories are spending hours on the little putt-putt green in the backyard, even though it was burning my feet. I just loved to sit there and play the putt-putt. And my probably favorite memory of Grandma was at my wedding with my husband, seeing her just boogieing and having the time of her life dancing on the dance floor. And I've heard from others say that she had been waiting the whole night to dance, and she just got tired of sitting at the table and she couldn't hold back anymore. So I figure she must be where I get my dancing spirit from. And even though she's not here with us anymore to make new memories, I know that all of us are carrying a little bit of her with us. I know for sure that there are some of us that are carrying her pride, and some of us that are carrying her charm and her wit. And I know that everyone here has a little piece of her that they're holding on to, and they show the world. And I think that Grandma is just... I can feel that she has love for everyone here. And I know that we all had a love for her too. And with my baby boy Cairo, I'm sure you can hear him crying over there. As he grows up, I'm going to share every memory that I have with him. Thank you.
So Mom had eyes in the back of her head. And she'd be the first one to tell you that. Whenever we were getting into something, Mom would call her name. And we'd say, how did you know I was doing something? She said, well, I've got eyes in the back of my head. She just had my kids are into something and doing something radar. And if you really want to know, just ask Carl. Because every time he ditched, whether he was at the mall, at the store, I mean, he could be off in the middle of nowhere, and Mom would walk up and say, what are you doing out of school? By the time I was in high school, I learned that if I was going to ditch, I'd just go home, because, that's where she was going to find me anyway. Mom had a lot of patience with us, with the children, with grandchildren. She always saw our missteps not as failures, but as valuable chances to instill critical lessons. She taught us the difference between right and wrong, the importance of kindness, fairness, the love for others, respect, honesty, virtue, diligence, and accountability were all values she nurtured within us. At the same time, she never forgot to teach us the joy of love and laughter and having fun. I don't know if Mom was doing it consciously or not, but she was really teaching us many of the attributes of Christ. It wasn't until much later in life that I fully grasped the positive influence that both Mom and Dad had on me. While I'm far from perfect, they undoubtedly provided me with a foundation in the gospel. I would like to share a few things that Mom taught us while we were growing up. And I think one of the best places to start is hard work is its own reward. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus taught us, and whoever compels you to go a mile, go with him too. And that instruction was to encourage people to, when faced with unjust demands and things, to just kind of go with it. It originated from a Roman law that allowed soldiers to compel citizens to carry their gear for 1 mile as a display of authority. The teaching emphasizes non-retaliation and extending generosity and service beyond what is expected. Mom instilled the same principle in me and in all of us. Just replace soldiers with teachers or later in life managers. She taught me the importance of hard work and always giving my best regardless of the task. I quickly learned that if I didn't do a thorough job, whether it was mowing, trimming, doing the dishes, raking 25 bags of leaves all by myself because my siblings were gone, that I'd simply have to do it again. However, if I put forth my best effort and did the best job I could, the experience and satisfaction of a job well done was what I had, even if I was knackered at the end. This work ethics carried over into my career and personal life when managers asked me to do things I didn't necessarily want to do. I knew my mom would want me to work my hardest and give the 2 miles for the one asked. I always tried to go the extra mile, which when I was writing this talk, I realized referred back to the scripture. And that's helped me turn into difficult situations and build strong relationships with coworkers. In my personal life, you can just ask Jana about our home renovations. Shortcuts aren't an option, and everything has to be properly planned and executed. And I think it kind of drives her a bit crazy sometimes. But that's a little bit Mom in me. Mom firmly believed in the golden rule. Treat others as how you want to be treated. She emphasized the importance of empathy and treating others with the same respect, kindness, and consideration that one desires for themselves. Jesus took it even further. He said, "But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. For God makes the sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward have you? Are not even the tax collectors doing that?" Just look around and see everybody here, and it's obvious by the turnout that Mom loved those around her and treated them with kindness, respect, and generosity. Everyone she came in contact with ended up loving her back, whether it was the gardener and caretaker, the cleaner, or a longtime friend. They were treated the same. Mom never thought that she was above another. All were equal in her eyes. As Jesus said, "A new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you." Mom and Dad also taught us honesty, responsibility, and accountability. They taught us as Jesus did. "The Lord hath commanded that men should not murder, that they should not lie, that they should not steal, that they should not take the name of the Lord their God in vain, that they should not envy, that they should not have malice, that they should not contend one with another, that they should not commit whoredoms, and that they should do none of these things." Mom taught us by example and by the phrase, "I better never catch you doing that." Mom also had a set of unsaid rules that we treated like commandments. "Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long in the land." I think she just took that from 10 Commandments. That just works. "Thou shalt not kill, but if you think a sibling is tried, if you're not bleeding, you're okay. You're fine. "Thou shalt not commit adultery or watch anything like it on TV, because that's when Mom will walk in. Guaranteed. "Thou shalt not steal, or you'll be in big trouble. We'll have to talk to the owner of the store while you return it to him." And they debate about calling the police. I know that from experience. I need a prop for this next one. "Not to care is made to care with a wooden stick." Now, It's important to note that Mom never hit us. And you can tell by the laughs that we took on the getting hit with a stick or a wooden spoon as a challenge. Essentially, we'd say, well, you have to catch us first, especially Carl and I. And Mom would be chasing us around the house with a wooden spoon. I'm going to get you. And, and eventually we'd just be laughing so hard that we'd go do whatever she wanted. Thou shalt be happy with what you have, or it will begin to someone in need. I was a very picky eater growing up, and I'm still a picky eater. But I was much worse then. And Mom would often tell me, don't you know there's starving people in China would be happy to have that? And one time I turned to her and I said, well, send it to them then. I'm not going to eat it. I don't remember anything after that. Contention was not allowed, including fighting, yelling, roughhousing, and generally being mean. Mom would get after me when she'd say, hey, go tell everybody it's time to eat. And I would stand in the kitchen and scream at the top of my voice, it's time to eat. And she'd say, I could have done that. Go to each person and tell them it's time to eat. Cleanliness is next to godliness. When we were required to make our bed every morning without fail. And being late for school was not an excuse. You had to make your bed. Just mean you're going to have to ride a little harder or run a little faster to get to school. And if you left things around the house, especially like your shoes, you'll find them in the garage the next morning. Mark says that's how he knew he became part of the family. He couldn't find his shoes. They're out in the garage. Also, cleaning your room didn't count if you just shoved everything in the closet and under your bed. You'd have to start over again. No throwing balls in the house, Carl. I didn't break the vase, although I may not have caught the ball, which might have led to the vase breaking. I don't really remember. We did try to glue it back together. We thought we were going to be in so much trouble, but Mom, they were just things to her. And our kids broke things all the time, and they were just things to her. It was fine. She might be disappointed or something, but she never got mad at us. Our own guilt usually was plenty enough. And the last one was always being time for dinner and be home, and we eat as a family and sit up and help us off the table. Despite a lifetime of challenges, including being born with a crooked leg, enduring the horrors of World War II, and going through tuberculosis and living with constant pain, Mom found joy in everything and everyone around her. She truly knew the value of a good laugh and enjoyed life to the fullest. We had quite a bit of fun, and as she gave us a joyful childhood. Russell M. Nelson said, the joy we feel has little to do with the circumstances of our lives and everything to do with the focus of our lives. And I think Mom really lived by that. Mom was always concerned with my spirituality. She felt I should be attending church and doing my best to follow Christ. When I was 11, she kept encouraging me to complete my primary graduation, which involved memorizing some scriptures. And she kept pushing me until I got it done, and I got it done. As a teen, she encouraged me to go to church with her every week, even though I would often head out on a long bike ride to avoid going. Later, she told me that she had talked to the bishop about how to get me to go to church. And he said, he'll come around. And I finally did. Mom wrote me for every week for 2 years when I was on my mission in Puerto Rico. And I appreciate that, Mom and Dad. Mom also supported me attending BYU, where my spiritual education was as great as my secular education. And having Christ in my life has brought me great joy, and I thank her for that. We had lots of fun at home, on vacations, and around town. We had spent time as a family playing board games and card games, croquet, badminton, lawn darts, and whatever else we came up with. We enjoyed watching TVs and movies together, where we often heard, "I better never catch you doing that." We also went on frequent picnics together, where we enjoyed playing games and exploring the woods. At some point in every picnic, Dad would get out the baseball and the bat and some gloves, and we'd make up some bases. And we'd all take turns batting and having ghost runners on the bases, and then Mom's turn would come up. And we knew she was going to have problems because she played cricket growing up, not baseball. And we'd get out there and we'd teach her, okay, you got to come through. You want to come through with the bat. And Dad would pitch her the ball, and she would go down like a cricket. After a while, she got it. She was all excited when she hit it, and we're all happy for her. Mom devoted most of her time and her life to the family. Growing up, Mom and I regularly spent time together. She would read to me when I was little, and as was always home when I got back from school. We often listened to music together and worked in the yard. And she always asked me about my day at school. We did chores together like the dishes and cleaning my room. I remember spending lots of time with her in the kitchen while she cooked. In her last day, I asked, remember all the time we used to spend in the kitchen? She said, yes. Most importantly, she always listened. Mom may not have taught me directly from the scriptures, but she did teach me through her love and her actions and what she did. To close, I'd like to read a couple of quotes that I think apply to Mom. It said, "Whosoever shall do these commandments and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven." And another, "And then shall it come to pass that the spirits of those who are righteous are received into a state of happiness, which is called paradise, a state of rest, a state of peace, where they shall rest from all their troubles, all their care, and their sorrow." Mom, we love you and miss you, but go and do the things that you've been longing to do. Walk again, garden again, be independent again, and see all those who have gone before. We love you, Mom. Really wanted to thank Art Sharp for playing Amazing Grace. It's a song her Mom's granddad used to go around singing, and appreciate that. To close, we want to sing the hymn, "God Be With You Till We Meet Again." It's on the back. Everybody needs to chime in and really bring it home like Mom would want. After the hymn, Jana Prestwich, her daughter-in-law, my wife, will offer a prayer. After that, everybody will be invited to go to refreshments, enjoy refreshments. Just go out the door, and to your left, down the hall, there'll be some signs and people guiding, and there we can visit and talk.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we are grateful for this opportunity we've had to come to be together as friends and family and share with each other the wonderful legacy that Kathy has passed on to each of us. We're grateful for her strength, her kind words, her wise advice. We're grateful for her sense of humor and her long suffering without complaint. Especially, we're grateful for her abundant love, which made everybody instant friends. May we move forward remembering these gifts that Kathy has left into our hearts and honor her with our thoughts and with our actions by exemplifying her wonderful qualities into our daily lives. We pray that peace will settle over everyone here today and that the Lord's spirit of comfort will be poured upon us, especially in these upcoming weeks. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.